get the recording going so people can see it, and we can get rocking. All right, so this is just a board that I happen to be on. I was on somebody's podcast, and that's something I'm structuring to do in an organized way. Is would like to get on more podcasts. I've got a podcast. I should be on other podcasts, and so I have this this card that I linked to because I booked this appointment. And I knew I wanted to get back to that. So how I did that was by linking boards, which Stasia just asked me about. So on my main board, I which I have a keyboard, or not a keyboard shortcut, but just a bookmark right there. So if you bookmark Trello in the top of Chrome, it'll show up like that. It'll have a little icon, just like Google Calendar is another cool thing that you can bookmark. And what I do is I've got links to different areas or different tasks that I'm going to do that day. So for this one, Able Business Radio, this is my podcast. This is what my board looks like. And it's very, very, very simple to link the boards. All you have to do is grab that URL up there, Control Copy, and then paste it anywhere you want. So I can, if I want to link these two boards, I'm going to link these two boards and save. There is, with Trello, there's always a million different ways to do things. So another thing that you can do is if you go to that sidebar, you can go more, and then you've got this URL right there. So, you could use that one, or just, I find it just easier to grab that one right off there. In addition to linking boards, you can link cards. So let's say, actually this would be a good one to link. This is somebody I was going to do an interview for, but today or 2 days ago, he talks about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to get more business, and he was sick, so he had to reschedule. But what I can do is I can open up this card, and I can share and more right there. So if you open the card and then go to the side and go share and more, each card has a particular link to it. So I can copy this link and send it to somebody on my team, maybe if I wanted to, or if I wanted to get it to my overall Kanban board, I can go and I already rebooked with him today. So okay, LinkedIn Riches and so I'm gonna find it because my eyes are. I thought I wasn't ready for this week. My eyes weren't seeing it. And then there we go, and I could paste it right there. And so right now I'm reading his book, and I'm taking notes on it in Evernote, and then I just go back to here, and I can know that okay, cool. I've got his headshot. I've got checklist items that I can get up to. So you can link cards and boards. And that was a little bit, Stasia, that we talked about this morning. You were wanting potentially to have a separate personal board and a separate board for your work, which is fine. A lot of people have done that before. I've even worked with somebody who uses a particular app, so either OmniFocus or Todoist. I've had different people to do that for their personal life, and then using Trello for everything to do with their work, because it made more sense for them to externalize their work where other people on the team could see it. Hey, Jason. So that's the board linking, and let's go through some other things. So there's a lot of features about the card that you might not notice right off the bat. So we can look into them. One of them is editing the card description. So at the very top, whenever you create a card, so add card, the title will be right here. So let's just say sample card. And actually, let me make this a little bigger. That's why I wasn't able to see anything. I zoomed out. So you got sample card, and right here you've got a description that you can write. So this would be the place that I would suggest actually writing the story. We haven't gotten to this lesson yet, but when you've got a bigger project, telling a story about it. So as a business, or as a company, as an individual, I want to do this thing so that I can get some value or that I can get this benefit. And having a story like that for bigger projects really helps people in the gray areas where they're like, oh, I'm not really sure what to do next, having a clear end goal or result, and reason why, and who it's going to benefit can help make taking those next actions a little bit easier. So that's where I suggest putting that. But you can put anything you want up here and just, test and then save it. And that'll always be at the very, very top. Now, when you comment, so there's another area where you can comment, test, and it goes down there, but then the next time you comment, it gets pushed down to the bottom. So all of your comments will go there, and continue to go down. And you can see all the activity for the board by just scrolling down and seeing what happens. So if, let's say I assign this to Debbie, that activity will be saved over on the sidebar, or I create a label for it, or do kind of those other things. You can see all that happening when you go over to show more and activity. Everything that happens in Trello happens over on that sidebar. So let's do some other things with the cards. So one of my favorite features with the cards is the checklist. So with checklist, you can just go over here, create the checklist. You can just call it checklist, which I do about half the time because I'm not super concerned about naming it. Or you can name the checklist. It'll already be highlighted over it. And then you can add it. Another thing you can do, so when you add a checklist, it just looks like this thing, that thing. And when you start checking things off, it will start showing the progress based off that. So the bar went up 1/3 and it says 33% right there. And the nice thing is when you close that card, it shows that information right there. It shows that there was 2 comments on the card and that 1/3 of the task within the card got done. Another thing you could do with those checklists is, let's say you've written a checklist before. So this is my podcasting board, so there's a few checklists. So podcast editing might be one that I could borrow and create that checklist, and it automatically populates. Those checklists that you can copy are isolated to that board. So if you've got another board, you can't copy a checklist from that necessarily. You'll have to either recreate it, or there is a workaround where you can move the card to that board and then copy that card or copy that checklist. But you can only copy the checklist in that manner with the cards on the board, which actually kind of makes sense because for the amount of checklists that I have all across my various boards, it would be insane to go through them all. And this seems like a lot, but they're all just essentially the same checklist. There's 3 different checklists that I have for this board. And I can name them anything that I want. The other cool thing that you can do with checklists, especially if it's a system that's going to be repeated over time, is you can link to process and different documentation. So show notes and outline in WordPress. I've got a procedure for the show notes, and it's in Google Docs, and I just link to it right there. There's even the HTML text that you copy in every time, and we've got complete instructions, so anybody on my team can take care of the show notes, and I don't have to worry about it in case I'm sick or something like that. I typically do it, but I don't have to if I don't want to. So another thing when it comes to those checklists too is if you want somebody to go through, if you're delegating something to somebody else and you want to go through it, you can have them physically check things off and know if they've been done or not. How I created that hyperlink is using a brackets and then parentheses right here. So brackets and then parentheses, and it's a special type of formatting called, I think it's called bullet point or markdown. There we go. I always forget that name, markdown. So markdown formatting is like HTML light. If you've ever done any like website development at all, it's a very simple version of it, where list can be either asterisks or little dashes. Bold can be two asterisks on either side of the word with no spacing, and then the hyperlinks are the brackets. The square brackets and then the roundy brackets. And so those are the main ones I use: the linking and the checklist. So if I wanted to create a checklist right here, I could go test, and this is mainly for the comments in this description section. And oh, wait a minute, I didn't follow the instructions. It was like this. Oh, I guess the description doesn't do it. Maybe only the comments. Let me copy that off. This is new to me. Oops. That's the link. Edit. And the other place where it works is the checklist, or in the checklist right there. So there. Okay. Yeah. All right. You cannot format in the description, even though right here it says formatting help. That's where you find the formatting help. I actually just found that. It was that webinar or that presentation that I put on Facebook. It was that or some other one where it's like, oh, if you forget formatting help, right here. I was like, oh, that's good. I just memorized it all. But it took me a while to memorize it all. Yeah, it's surprising that it doesn't work in the description right there. But it works down here. And if I wanted to italicize something, it would be like that. So it's a little italicized. And then if you want to bold, 2 dashes, test, 2 dashes, and save right there. Who came on board? Welcome whoever else came. Oop, and left. Cool. So that's a little bit more with the cards. The cool thing about cards, and this is great for teams and great for little reminders if you need it, is the @mentions. So when you comment on a card, you can go @ and then mention anybody else on the card. You cannot mention yourself. So I'm on this board, but I can't mention myself, but I can mention Nikita, who's on this board, or Debbie, who's on this board. And if I do that, they're going to get a push notification onto their phone if they have the iPhone or the Android or the Windows app, and potentially in their email, depending on the settings. So I'll show you where in the settings where you can change those notifications. But what they do is they don't send you a notification every time, but they'll send you a notification, an email notification, every hour or so. So if you get 5 people pinging you all at once, you'll get a little bit of a digest of those @mentions. So those are @mentions. I won't do that because it'll just ping them. Forget it. I'll just say don't worry about those. So I just ping them. And if there's any text associated with that @mention, they'll see that text too in the notification or in the email. Now, it seems like it might be easy to, like, I know all the time I get text in and I read the text and I don't always respond to it, and then I forget to text that person back. Same with email. You don't always look at your email at every hour, and if this is something you want to pay a little bit more attention to, you always have a backup, because right here, this little bell in the upper right hand corner shows you all the different notifications that you've had. So what I typically do is I'll look at the notifications, and sometimes I answer them on the phone, but a lot of times I just give myself a time towards the end of the day where I go back and batch process all of these. So Debbie was kind of confused about what something I was talking about, so I can click on that and go right to that card and answer any questions that she might have. So I had already answered her question though, so don't need to worry about it. So that's handling that's giving and then handling the notifications. Another thing that is great to do with cards, although you probably want to use a little bit sparingly, is due dates. So you can set due dates on cards, and when it's that day, so I'll save it for this day, it turns red, and I don't like that. And if the due date is about to come, it turns yellow. And if you created a card, or if you're following the card, you'll get a notification when the due date comes. Otherwise, it's a little bit up to you to look at that board and recognize when due dates are coming. So I can show you as well, and I'll probably do that a little later when I'm talking about the sidebar, how to sync that up with your calendar. But that's another option for due dates is syncing with your calendar. And this right here where it says start date, end date, that's because I have a particular power up, which I can talk about, but that shouldn't be standard on yours. So again, another thing we could talk about, but due dates are a little bit limited. I'd say it would be nice actually if they had a start date and a finish date, so you can think about when you want to start work versus when work needs to be done. So I use those pretty sparingly. Maybe, if there's something that definitely like I've got to have this project turned in by this time, I will do that, and I'll often use a label, like a red label, just to make sure my eyes see it. And I know that's something that's urgent that I need to do, and set up any other reminders of how to do that. So we got due dates, and let me look at my other things. So, oh yeah, so we talked about getting notifications for due dates, or if things happen on the card. When you create a card, you're automatically subscribed to it. If you don't subscribe to it, you can click that button right there. So now, anytime anything happens to this card, by clicking that subscribe button, I will be notified. So I'll know that card moved. And that's something you could do if you're wanting to pay attention to what's happening with a particular project. It's not something I use super often. Another thing too with the sidebar is attachments. Trello is thebomb.com when it comes to attachments. You can attach pretty dang near anything. So here we go. I'll do an image. You guys have already had some experience doing that by putting your pre-course survey on there, and then it defaults to giving that attachment, that first attachment, to a cover image. I actually kind of like this default. You can change it if that's something you want to do in your settings, but I keep it there because typically I like it, and if I don't, it's very easy to remove cover. So right there is that button to remove cover if you don't want that image going to the top, or if you want to change it, you want to attach another image. With Trello Gold, you get 250 megabytes, which is like a 30-minute audio, a 10-minute video or something like that, where quite a bit gets saved on there. If you don't have the Gold, then it's 10 megabytes. So a couple pictures, typically would be there. The Gold costs $5 a month. And a great hack if you want to have free Gold forever, which I essentially will never pay for Trello, although I probably should start to pay for it because I love it so much, is if you invite somebody to Trello who's never used it before. And the best way to do that typically has to do with projects. So you're organizing a project, and you want people to do it in Trello versus email or some other medium. So all you have to do is create a board, organize some of your ideas on there, and then go show more and invite people to the board. So when you invite them, all you need is their email address, and they'll get sent a, hey, Jason just invited you to this Trello board. And then what they have to do is click accept and then put in a password if it's their first time using Trello, and then boom, you've got a month free of Trello Gold. Do that enough times and it's free. So that's nice. The other thing that comes with Trello Gold, in addition to more storage space on the cards, is more power-ups. So I still want to finish the board, but I want to show you the power-ups real quickly. On the side, there is the power-ups. So if you go to show more, and the first thing you'll see is power-ups, or fourth thing you'll see is power-ups. These are features that it's in the last year. It's amazing how much this is expanded. It's bananas. It was like 3 for the longest time. You could sync it with your calendar and do a few other things, but they are going crazy on the power-ups, which is awesome because it means people are using it. People are wanting to integrate with this tool. So you get 3 of those versus just 1 if you have Trello Gold rather. So another thing, when we talked about copying those checklists, you can also copy the whole card, which is actually how I handle creating new cards that are repeated over and over again. So I've got the the 3 checklists that I have in here. And so what I'll do is I'll open this card and click copy. And then I'll rename the card. So, Able Business Radio episode 40. Why Trello rocks. And then I'll create that card. Oh, and when I did that a little quickly, so I'll press copy again. You can rename it right there. You can keep the checklist, and you can keep the comments in there if you'd like, or you can take them away if you don't want them. But that's the reason I copied the card, is because I want this checklist again. And then you can look where it goes. So you copy the card to any board you want, or any, well, I'm going to donations boards, or any list you want on that board, and any position you want to, and then you can create the card. So I just created a card that is, I don't know where it went. So what did I say? 40? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it went to the top of the booked, why Trello rocks. And then it's got all those checklists and that link that I have in the comment that for some reason I wanted it there. Oh, yeah, I probably don't need that link in the comment, so I will uncheck that next time. So that is cards. So one thing you might not know yet, if you're in the space of just creating cards and putting lots of cards in there, is what do you do when you're done? Like, okay, obviously we want to put things in the done pile, and in this case, the done pile is right here, and I leave it so I have an archive of all the different podcasts that I've had. But you don't need to keep them, and they might start adding up a little bit too much. So what you can do is you can take the card and click archive. And archive is very similar to Gmail. You want to think of you're not quite deleting it. You can always search the board and find it again, but it's essentially out of your hair. And that's how you deal with things. You're not really deleting things. You're just getting them out of your hair. So archiving is, you can click that button right there. So that's one archive option. The other option that you might start doing is pressing the C button, which I think that stands for clear or something. So that's a way of archiving it. And if all of a sudden I'm like, oh shoot, I really wish I didn't do that, don't worry about it. You can just go show more, go to the side, and it says right here in the activity, I archive this card. And so I can click on that card, and I could send that back to the board. Right there, you can see that button, send back to board. And that's how you get it back. You're like, oh, okay, good. It's still there. So it's sort of like send it back to inbox with Gmail. Might be a way of thinking about it. So you don't have to worry about archiving the board. Another thing to mention when it comes to labels is there's a few different ways to add labels to the card. So you can go click add labels right here. You can edit the labels so they actually say different words. So edit this label and say, urgent. I'll just make red my urgent and save that. So those will show up. And you can also edit the cards by clicking this little button right here. So there's a pencil in the upper right-hand corner. That's not very obvious, but you can edit the labels, you can change members, you can move it, you can copy it, you can change the due dates, and you can archive it. So I actually archive cards most often this way for some reason, but I think the C button's a lot faster. So you can go here and edit the labels and be like, okay, this is the podcast, and save. Another thing you can do with the cards is the buttons. The L button right there will open up your labels. So all you have to do is hover over, hit L, and then I'm using my arrow buttons to go up and down and be like, okay, I want this to be not urgent anymore. So I uncheck that box right there. Another way you could do this, and this is I would suggest, and Stasi, I showed you this on that Facebook video. If you're going to be hot and heavy with the labeling, I would learn the keyboard shortcuts, which are just numbers. So on your keyboard, you've got different numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you hover over, and you'll start to memorize. Okay, this one this one's for the green card, or this one's for the podcast, or whatever. So it's a way to get a lot quicker at labels if you're going to really do a lot of labeling, which for somebody who wants to separate their work and their home based off of filters, that would be something you'd probably want to start learning, those keyboard shortcuts. And speaking of, it's hard to go in order with this because things all mix and match. You can filter your cards by going over to the sidebar and filter the cards. Let's say I only want to see the ones that are yellow, or maybe I only want to see the ones that are assigned to me, or maybe I want to see the ones that are urgent. So you can filter in that way. The F button is the shortcut to get to the filter, for that really quickly. And for the shortcuts, if you actually just hold down the question mark, that's where you can get to all the shortcuts and figure out which ones make the most sense for you. I'm just trying to let you know the ones that I use the most often, to kind of help you prioritize which ones you order. But you can see the key here for the color labels, F for filtering cards. Oh yeah, enter is a good one for opening cards. E is also another one. So you know how I showed you that pencil? Right here, another way you can edit your card is with the E button. It does the same thing. So got that. And okay, last thing, moving cards to different boards. So I usually do it by this way, by clicking either that E button or that pencil and then move. So if you've got a card that you need to move to a different board, you can just open up that board and go ahead and move that. Yours won't seem as crazy as mine. I've got a lot of different boards. That's why if you do create a number, as many boards as I've got, creating teams helps you separate that. So for example, Clean Slate, everyone in Clean Slate is on this particular team to organize it. If you get Trello for Business, which is $10 per month per user, that's one of the main benefits of essentially a feature they held back to get people to want to join. That is, you can better organize your various teams, and you have more control over who can edit, who doesn't, who can let people in, who doesn't. If somebody leaves, you don't lose their information, or they have no way of taking information with them. But that organizing your boards is another way of if you wanted to upgrade, you can get that feature. But so for me, a lot of my main boards are on the Nikitari one, so I'll just be like, okay, I want this to go to my Kanban board, and then you can, again, notes and ideas, which list do you want it to go to, which position do you want it to go to. So that's moving cards. That was all the cards. Any card questions? and granted, cards are the most difficult thing.
I don't think so, Zach. That was great.
Cool. All right. The other area that's pretty good to know about, and I might go probably not as long, but is the sidebar. So let's start looking at the sidebar. This is, who's doing that, Jason?
Oh.
Don't worry about it. Here, let's see. I had such trouble annotating the other day. Here, I'll clear all drawings. Boom. Or was that me? Did I do that? I don't know.
No, I think it was me. I'm sorry.
You are the worst. I can't believe you did that. Just joking. So yeah, sidebar. So we've got the boards, which you can always create a new board by hitting the plus create new board. Teams, same thing. And teams are essentially who you want to share that board with. And then business teams, they're probably just trying to get you to upgrade right there. But the sidebar is the other thing. So you've got the boards, list, very easy to create. Just I'll quickly show you. If you want to add a list, you add a list. If you have a big list like this and you want to get something in between, I actually just learned this. Hit the, thought it was the double space bar. There we go. Double click right in between the list, and it'll put it on that position that you're in. Not something you really need to know for the most part, but another fun fact. So the sidebar comes with a number of options. One is to change the background. With the default, you've got the colors that you can change. If you get Trello Gold, you can look at Unsplash, and they've got just amazing photos. I don't know why I've kept Able Business Radio so boring. I'm going to change that right now. Beautiful photos. If you want to search, if you really like the beach or mountains or whatever it happens to be, they tend to be more nature based. Another thing too is you can create a custom one. So you notice the clean slate or the custom one. So if you wanted a picture of your family or any sort of thing, you can do that right there. So that is the background. I would suggest changing the background for your main board to something other than the blue, so you can draw your eyes to it. The other thing that I talked briefly in the group coaching the other day was the starring the boards, and that will have it float to the top of both your app and of the of all of your boards that you have on the side. So you see these are the boards that I'm finding most important right now. Usually mine, certain workflows that I have, and clients that I'm currently working with. So that, man, this board's so much better now. Instant upgrade. Filtering cards, we already talked about, but that's where you can filter the cards. You can also do it based off due dates if you're using due dates fairly heavily. And stickers. This isn't something I use very much. Stasi, I think I saw you using stickers, and I was like, oh, I forgot about stickers. So yeah, you can put stickers. I don't know. Like, good job. I think this could be good if you're on a team and you wanted to give a kudos to somebody. You know, this dog is called Taco, so you can give a Trello Taco. Or maybe if you're deciding what project you want to work on next, you can have people vote on it. And then yeah, those are stickers that you can use. And then if you go below stickers is power-ups. So there are a lot of power-ups. I think I'm going to deal with those power-ups in a minute because there's a lot I want to show you. And so if you go to more, there's other things you can change the setting. So that's what I talked about before. Your commenting permissions, add or remove people, allow other people to join, or the cover card images being the default right there. Different labels you can look at right there. And then this feature, which is a very nice feature, is the email to board settings. So just with, it's not necessarily the case, I would just click generate a new address just to begin with. I don't know why. I find that it tends to, both with the calendar and with the email to Trello settings, generating a new one seems to work a little bit better. So what you can do is you can grab this email address and you can copy it, and you can go to your Gmail and you could add it to your contacts, or you can just send it for the first time. So you compose and go there, and whatever you put in the subject line is going to be the title. So this in there, this is the title, and send. Now it's not always instant, and it typically goes to the leftmost, the bottom of the leftmost list. Okay, so this is the title. So that's where you'll find it. Each board has a specific email address. So if you want to email something to your main Kanban board, you would need to get that email address from the show more, go to the sidebar, go to more, and get that email address right there. You can also subscribe to an entire board. So if anything happens with that board, you'll see it. And the feature that I used actually to do this group coaching is you can copy an entire board. So if you want a particular thing, a particular board, and you just want the whole thing copied, sort of like I wanted the clean slate checklist copied for everybody, you can copy that entire board. It's not something you'll use all the time, but that's another one. Print and export, never really use that. Not quite sure how that looks, but that's That's something. And then the collections, what I was talking about earlier with the business, they help organize all the different boards a little bit more effectively. That's something that you can get into down the line. So that's that. But then power ups. So there's a lot of cool stuff in power ups. So let me see if there's anything I want to talk about before we get to that. We talked about notifications. So again, that little bell is where you'll see the notifications, and it'll always turn red if you haven't looked at them yet. And there'll also be, if you've got the app, there'll be a little red bell, sort of like a let's see if I have mine right here. I think just like with email, you know how sometimes there's a little red dot that says like 6 if you've got 6 unread emails. Well, first, turn that off because you shouldn't have that many email notifications. But second, Trello does the same thing. So there'll be a little notification in the sidebar, and you can also open up and see all the notifications in the Trello app. And if people are wanting to see how things work or have any questions on the Trello, I could get my phone to be visible on the screen, and we could do that. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but if that's what folks are wanting, I'll be happy to do it. So the sidebar. Here are some that you would be interested in first. One is the calendar. So with the calendar, with this enabled, so all you have to do is go to the side and enable your calendar, and then you'll be able to see all the due dates that you have for that particular board, because this little button right here will show up. So if you decide, okay, this actually should be due here, this should be due here, that will show up. It will be reflected in those due dates of those cards. You can also see week mode if that's something that you want to look at. So that's a calendar. Each calendar is specific to the board. So if you have different Trello boards and you want to have all the calendars in one spot, that's not something that is possible, but you can sync all of the Trello boards to your Google Calendar. And here's how you do that. There's a little gear right here, and right here it may say disabled to begin with, so you'll want to enable the board, and then, like I did before, regenerate that URL. I don't know why, it just works a little bit better. And then copy that URL, similar to what we did with that email to Trello settings, and then go to your Google Calendar, Outlook, whatever calendar you use. I use Google Calendar, so that's the only example I can show you. Hit that little triangle bar to add calendar, and then add by URL. Outlook has the same feature of add by URL, and then you can copy, paste it in there, and then add that calendar. So we can wait for that calendar to show up, and actually you can even see some things showed up right there. So the calendar default is it's not the default, but just happened to show up as red this time. So I can hit this triangle right here, and I can change the color. So maybe I want it to be that color. I don't know. I'm colorblind. Is that orange? And then you can, in the calendar settings, change the name, because the name goes to like this weird Trello.ics thing, and it could be Trello board number 1 or whatever you wanted to call it, and save it there. And then it would be in your calendar. So if you wanted to see in the same place your tasks that you have due dates for and your actual calendar, you can, or you could toggle that off, toggle it on, toggle off, toggle off. So that's how you set it up there. Another thing you can do is, if you wanted some additional reminders, is you can edit notifications and then change the notifications for that particular calendar. So right now, no notifications are set, but you can add 10 minutes before, or you get a notification or an email, or you can do an hour before, or a few days before, or I think the max is 4 weeks before you can set these notifications for. And this is just with Google Calendar doesn't let you go over 4 weeks. I don't know why. So that's a way you can add notifications for pending due dates. So let's say this thing is due 4 weeks out. You don't use due dates very often, so you can sync it to your calendar and ask your calendar to remind you 4 weeks in advance. So that would be a way of setting up some sort of a reminder by syncing it to your calendar. So calendar is one of my favorite ones. Card aging is another very good one. So I'm going to disable the calendar and enable card aging. And for me, these cards are going to look pretty old because I don't always update the backlog or ideas very often. So if you haven't touched something in a while, it'll gray out. And if you're feeling a little wily, you can go to pirate mode, and then it looks like a scroll that's aging and decaying. So you can see Tyler. I really need to get Tyler on the podcast. It's been decaying. So that's card aging. Another more recent one, two more recent ones that came out that I'm a big fan of, are card repeaters. So if you've got recurring tasks that come up, so the one that I do that I would suggest is a weekly review. So every week I have a weekly review, and that card repeats itself, and it comes with that same checklist that I created. So zero my inbox, look at 2 weeks forward, 2 weeks back in my calendar, clear my inbox for Trello, clear my inbox for Evernote, plan out my big rocks for the week, visualize my work. Those are the things that I have on that checklist. So I don't have to think about it. I just kind of go through and the motions and check it off and then clear that card. So card repeater is good. You've got, here, I'll just show you. When you enable card repeater, your cards will start to look different. So they'll, in the power up section, there'll be a repeat. So you can set that repeat for any day of the week. With the due dates as well as with the card repeater, it defaults to noon. So if you want to change the time, and then you can change where it shows up. So whatever list you want, whatever board you want, whatever time period you want, that's what you can do. Whatever position you want, you can set that repeat to go on, and it will keep all of the if you have a checklist in there, it'll keep the checklist in there. Unfortunately, if you put a due date next to it, it keeps that same due date over and over and over again. That's a little bug that I noticed. So don't add due dates to it, because it will keep on telling you that your weekly review isn't been done from March 23rd, which is the case for me. So card repeater. Then cards news. Love me some cards news. So a lot of people, you've got all these projects that you want to get up to, a lot of to-dos, that externalization. You got so many different boards or cards to sift through. You can now snooze them, and this one is like a month old. This one's a very new one, but I'm so happy. So you can do it for an hour, 2 hours, a week, a month, and an afternoon. So those are your options for snoozing cards. And I really like doing this for meetings that I know are going to happen. So I'll outline something for a meeting, and then I'll snooze it for an hour or two beforehand. So that's a helpful thing to do if you want to do it. So let me see: snoozing, repeating, card aging. Voting is another one that you could do, but you can use those stickers if you want to make voting fun. Custom fields is another one that if you're trying to create some sort of a sales funnel, and you have certain bits of information that you want to put in there, your custom fields. Let's see, yeah, custom fields. So, I've got too many power ups right now. So that's what will happen when you've got too many power ups going. It'll ask you to upgrade. So I got to disable one and enable the fields. Oh, custom fields. So I wrote them down because I don't always remember the names. A lot of ones with C. Am I being okay? There we go. I was being a crazy person. So custom fields is you go in here, and then you can create a custom field. So you create a form for every card that you want to create, and you can have text or numbers or checkbox or dates or drop down list. So let's say you want to have a number, and you could show this information on the front end. So you got number of dollars. I don't know. You save that, and then when anyone comes into this card, they will, so let's create a new card, add a card, test, and that custom field will come up and you can say, $20 or $200 and save that. And that will essentially go in the description and then also show up right there. So number of dollars, 200. So if you've got, I actually think that's the best case scenario if you've got a sales funnel. So it's like prospects, hot, cold, you can sort of visualize where they are in the process and maybe how much they're worth, or names or numbers or addresses. It also has, if you're actually really want to get into sales and you use Salesforce, there's a great integration with Salesforce that you can use. So I'll let people just go ahead and look through them and see if there's anything. Pipeline's another one that there's an integration for. Dropbox, Google Drive. When you have those ones set up, you can actually search for particular documents or folders from Evernote or Dropbox or Google Drive within the card. It's just fun to play around with. So just turn them on, think around, and then keep going there. So those they're power-ups, but I actually think of them more as integrations. So some of the better ones are Evernote, Drive, OneDrive, Salesforce. Zendesk is another one. And Slack has a killer integration. So if your team uses Slack, you can even set up, when you create cards, the bots to remind you. So that's one downside, or one shortcoming of Trello is a little bit lack of notifications. Like you've got due dates. That's about it. And it would be nice if you could have a few more reminders, where if you integrate with Slack, you can have the Slack bots set to give you reminders 2 hours out, 1 hour out, 3 hours out, 4 months out, just whatever sort of reminder that you want. So those are the main ones for that. And now to the Chrome extension. So these are the things that are natural embedded into Trello. However, there's developers out there that really like Trello that wanted to add more features and used the Chrome browser to add features to it. And there's a few that I really like. I'll share this in the in the chat. Oh, where did it go? Oh, weird. My Evernote is in no man's land. It's right between my two. There we go. I've got dual screens here, and it's right in between both dual screens. So Evernote. Oh, wait a minute. Not Evernote. Trello extensions. Copy public link. So I'll give you guys this link in a second. So here are the ones that I like the most. So there's Trello's official extension. And the reason why I like Trello's official extension is because anywhere and everywhere, I can always add a card to Trello by hitting this little box right here in the upper right-hand corner. So Trello extension, you can do any card, any list, anything you're waiting on. Another thing you can do is check that box, and it will take the URL, whatever you're on, and save it. And it'll even save an image from it. So you've got that cover image. You can add things to the description. It just makes adding stuff to Trello that much easier. My default is my Kanban and notes and ideas. And that's where I put stuff in. I'd say 60 to 70% of what I put into Trello, I put in through that little box right there. It's very, very effective. The other thing the Pro for Trello gives you is if you press the T button and then space, you now can search all of your different, so like my Kanban or clean slate. You can search all of your different boards and pop to them very, very quickly. So as soon as you find one that you want, so I'll just go here, you just press enter, and it'll take you there. So that is the Pro for Trello. And if you go to that link and you're using Chrome, you can put it in there. So those are two features in that. A Trello's official extension. Pro for Trello is another one that I really enjoy. So you notice that I can see work or high priority or podcast, where you guys might just be seeing the colors. That is one feature of Pro for Trello. There's a few other features. One of them is recognize groups. recognize priority. I've already talked about the display the labels. If you label those card numbers, there's you can just check the boxes and see what they look like. These are the three: the recognize groups, recognize priorities, and display that I use. And you just check them off and then click that checkbox to get there, and you'll start seeing them. The other feature that you'll see. So if I do this right here, save it, and see how that's bolded? I can now filter based off the word clean if I want to. And this is just another way if you wanted to label and filter based off, I usually do it with names actually. So if there's somebody I want to follow up with, I'll just write their name and I'll do that, and then I'll filter based off their name. So that is Pro for Trello. Filtering cards. Oh, and also priority. So if you put exclamation points, it will show different levels of priority. So 1, 2, or 3 exclamation points, depending on how serious you are about that card. I think it just gets darker right there. So that is Pro for Trello. Very urgent right now. The other one is a card counter, and so if just knowing how many cards you have in the list is nice. There's another one that I use that has kind of overridden that one, but it's still, if you just want the card counter feature, it's a good one to have. Good for limiting the amount of projects you have. Trello is another one. So Trello allows you to hide your various lists. So if you've got a lot of lists and you really need to focus, so what I can do is hide all of the list right here. So you can see these buttons. These are all the lists that I have on this thing, so I can hide them all. And I just want to see what's in my notes and ideas, or I just want to see what's on today's focus, or I just want to see what's ready for this week, or I'm working on my notes and ideas, and I'm trying to move them into my current project. So I just want to see those too. So that's Trello. It's a great way to filter out things that you don't necessarily want to be seen at the moment. So lists that you don't want to see at the moment. That's really the only thing it does, but it's awesome. Kanban WIP for Trello. So WIP stands for work in progress. So WIP, you want to whip it and whip it good. And that's for making it more visual, for limiting the amount of things that you're doing that day. So, for example, I created a, let me show you to-dos, or, yeah, to-dos. No, today's. So what I did is with that plugin, you put the brackets right here, and then I said 3. So 3 is the number of things that I can realistically do. And once I get to 3, it'll turn that color, whatever that is, orange. And then if I get to more, it'll turn red. And be like, hey, seriously, you've busted your whip limit. So that is another one that I only found recently, but really like. So Kanban whip for Trello, and then Altamelo, which also counts your cards, but then has the added feature of allowing you to sort your list by date and by move all cards to this archives. I thought I actually let you do a little bit more. Oh, here we go. I pressed the wrong button. So you can sort by due date, alphabetically. This is something Victoria, who's in this group, wanted. So can I sort these alphabetically? I was like, no, you can't. But with Altamelo, you can. You can do the voting. So if you've got the vote power up plugged in, you can do it by labels, creation date, last activated. So it's just a feature that, frankly, I wish was in Trello, but it's not. And then the card counters come on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side with that other one. So those are the extensions. Just to note, there's a few things that you can't do with Trello. So there's a handful of things you cannot do with Trello. One of them is that you can't do is swim lanes. So right here, these are all lists, but you can't have any list below this list. Everything's in columns. There's no horizontal swim lanes that you can create. And then batch editing. So if there's something that you wanted, like all of these cards to have this new checklist, there's no capability of that. There are some other tools that I'd be happy to tell you about offline that that could do that if you're interested in it. They're just more technical and they're more expensive, and they're harder to get going. So that's why I use Trello. Let's think. Yeah, that's it. So shortcuts, D for date, C for clear, L for label. Oh, another cool one is Q for the ones that are assigned to you, E for edit. And if you forget any of those, I think they're up here as well. Yeah, shortcuts. You can see all the shortcuts here, or hitting the question mark button will give you the shortcuts. If you want to, we talked about card templates. We talked about adding cards to the calendar, formatting text cards, filtering cards, linking to cards and boards. I'm just going through my checklist right here. How to leave video comments in cards. This requires an extra tool, but if a tool that I'm a fan of. Oh, and before I forget, here, let me share this with you in the chat. More chat. So that's that link to all those Evernote Chrome extensions. So those are the things that allow you to see your cards or hide lists or do all those other things that I kind of like doing. What was I? Oh, leave video comment on a card. So Jing is a tool that I would recommend. The one I use right now is called Tapes, but they haven't updated since 2015, so I'm hesitant to recommend it. They work very well right now. But you guys have probably seen me do this a few times where I'm just saying, blah, 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 blah. You know, this is something cool that you can do. And then you can put it into the comment section of the card. And I think this is such an easy way to communicate with people, especially something if you want to show something digitally. You'll just save a lot of time and a lot of missed communication by sharing with videos, and you can put those links right there. If you recorded a video, let's say on QuickTime or iMovie or some other thing, you can upload it to the card. Just know that if you do that too often, the board will start to slow down because it's carrying all this information, and you'll need to use the Trello Gold to get the 250 megabytes likely for that kind of video, and it won't be. It'll take more load time and everything like that. So I'd suggest using a tool like Jing to record videos and have them uploaded automatically, or you can upload videos and put them in Dropbox and use a Dropbox link. That might be another way of doing things. Big fan of videos, so I wanted to tell you about putting videos into the comments. Stickers, gold, difference between gold and that's it. Oh, something if you want here's some cool resources. So Trello for Teams will show you different, so if your project management or maybe human resources, you've got a lot of different board examples that you can look at. So actually hiring, I've helped somebody build a hiring onboarding board. I did not know that they had this template. So you can create these public boards, and Trello has, that you can then copy this whole board if you want to. If you really like it, you can be like, oh, cool, I like this board more, copy board. And then it's your board. Everything in that board is yours. So that's a pretty cool resource. Another one is Trello.com/inspiration. Hopefully I spelled that right. So it's essentially, I think it's a lot of the same boards, but it's just another place where you can find some boards. And then Trello integrations. This is where I kind of found the ones that I like the most. Slack, Drive are some great integrations, but you can see more of the tools. Check out more here. You can check out all the different ones. Butler's another good one. If people want to get fancy, it's a way of making more automations. So you can see all of those there. And integrations and Trello resources. What's this? Oh yeah, this is a Trello board they created with lots of tips and feedbacks and browser extensions and open source projects that's going on. So might be a little more than you care to know, but it's an interesting board to me. So actually, when I do a recording, I'll make sure to put a lot of these links and things that we talked about in here too. So if you're interested in not wanting to take all the notes and all that stuff on that. So yeah, that was an hour of me talking about Trello. Thanks for hanging out. What do you guys think?
It looks great. I mean, it's nice seeing everything else we can do on top of what we talked about earlier this week. So thank you.
You're welcome. Stasia, anything that I missed?
I think Bobby was talking about earlier about you had mentioned teams, how to be the boss on the card, how to look through the notifications.
Yeah,
properly.
really good.
And Bobby was asked about the teams, so I think that would be really good to go through a bit
Really
more
good
in detail.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I wanted to get more into that, and I just gotten too excited about power-ups, I think. So when you invite somebody right here, you do it based off their email. The person who creates the board automatically has these little, I don't know, like chevrons, because you're the captain or the general, maybe. And that means you are the board admin on this. You can give other people admin rights. So change permissions. So she's normal. So she can view and edit cards, but can't change the settings, or I can allow her to change the settings. And same with this. So you could view and add. So that's really the main way you organize teams based off a board, but you can also create teams in isolation. And this is more of a business class thing. This is the main thing that they kind of hold out on when it comes to the Trello or just Trello board. So you can create these create teams all the way down here. So create a new team, name team Stasia, and then did I spell your name right? Did I spell it right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Oh, you're muted. All right. Description, the best team, and create. So right now you can create the Kanban, and then that's going to be a board that you have there, and then get back. And you can create other boards on this section right here and put that in the team. Now, if you created a board and you didn't create it on that particular team, right here you can change the team to any of the teams that you have going on there, or you can even do what Trello did is, hey, change team. Isn't this? Oh, it's right here. Okay. I'll get to this in a second. Okay, so you can change the team right there. And so a lot of times I'll just create boards willy-nilly and then I'll add them to a team. That's typically how I do it. But if you wanted to create everything first, you can create that team. And then it separates your various teams. And the only other way you can separate without going up to business class is by using that star button, and those will all bunch together at the very top of your, if you just go to Trello.com or your sidebar right here. You can see too, this separates it out. Personal boards, and I've got so many though. Clean slate, these are all bunched together based off that team. And another thing too, when you open up that sidebar right here, the boards bar, it will show you your recent boards. So that's kind of another easy way to get back to things. And then you'll probably notice when I was navigating too, I just use the back and the forward button a lot on the browser. So that's another way of navigating pretty quickly between different boards. And then, yeah, I think that's the main thing with the teams. Another thing I wanted to show was this can be a team board, it could be a private board, or it could be a public board. Now, if you created this and turned it into a public board, anybody, you can send this link to somebody and they could take a look at the board. And I could show you those. So Trello.com / Inspiration. These are all examples of public boards that people have created. So if you ever see a board that you're like, oh, Zach, I really wish I had that board. I don't think I've shown you any fancy boards yet. I could copy that board very easily. But so right here, I can't really do anything on this board, but I can see everything, and I can open up the cards, and I can look at the information in there. So if you had an outside vendor or somebody you just wanted to share, like, hey, would you take a look at this? Or in my case, maybe I created a Trello template that I wanted to show other people. Actually, here's a good example. I created one on the 12-week year. So that's a popular business and productivity book. And so I created this template on how to track your 12-week year in Trello, and I made a little YouTube video about it. So I created a public link so people can. So even if I'm in like incognito mode and not signed in to this board, I can still see it. I can't really do anything with this, and it doesn't know that I'm a Trello member, so it's trying to get me to sign up for free. But I can go to more, and if it knew I had a Trello account, I could copy the board, and I would essentially have everything in there, and it would be in my Trello. So that's public, private, teams, and how you can share and increase or limit access. Typically, when people get access, they're able to comment on cards, they're able to move cards, and even archive and move cards around. So when you add somebody to a team, just let them know, hey, don't archive things that aren't done yet. But if that does tend to happen, but if that does happen, you've always got a track record of everything that happened. So maybe if you got some new people on the board, say, hey, I'm gonna keep an eye on this board. So more. Maybe this is public, so I can't. Oh yeah, subscribe to this board, and you can watch everything that they're doing. If they're doing anything you don't want, just mention them. Say, hey, stop doing that, and then reverse whatever they did by going into this activity right here and just undoing whatever they ended up doing, and then kick them off if they're being jerks. but that's it. It's a pretty. I think I would say it's a trusting system. It's like if you're in the board, do the things that you need to do in the board, and if you're not, let's just keep you out of this board. But it takes the business account if you want to really say, okay, you can open cards, but you can't comment on them, or you can move them, but you can't do, just being very specific. But I think that's the best part about Trello is, man, okay, I mean, you saw me, and now I've talked for an hour and 15 minutes about all the different features and things that you can do, but go to Trello.com and create a board, and now what team is it going to be on? It's going to be on Stasia's team. I'm doing a party next week, and here are the things. Food to eat, people to invite, things to buy. I should invite these people, Sarah. And then that's it. Like, it's so simple. It's so just like very basic. Oh, I want to eat Sarah now, or I need to buy Sarah. It's just so simple. And then it can be like, oh, well, if I open the card, I can do these other things. Oh, if I look at the sidebar, I can do these other things. So it's got such simplicity, but it allows you to scale and do a lot of complicated things that you could want to. And the one thing I didn't even get into, but I have done this with other teams before, is doing a more advanced type of project management called Agile. It's got power-ups and plugins that allow you to do that. So, yeah, that's Trello. That's all the things I know about it. Cool.
That was great.
Absolutely. Thanks for.
Yeah,
thanks.
It was a bonus.
I needed to get this out. It was a good excuse. I just like, I've never just told everything I know about Trello. I need to do it.
That was awesome.
So that's all I've got. I know no more. Yeah, thanks for showing up. So I had an excuse to, or I had a little bit of an audience to,
Good.
and asking good questions too. So.